"It hurts too much," Emily West whispered as the powerful man moved closer, his presence overwhelming her senses. His eyes flashed with an unnatural gold, his lips curling into a knowing smile. "The pain will turn to pleasure," he replied, his voice deep and certain. The forest around Emily West closed in like a trap. Her breath came in desperate gasps as she ran between ancient oaks, their shadows stretching like clawed hands across the leaf-strewn ground. Something was wrong with her body. Heat crawled beneath her skin, a fever that had nothing to do with her frantic flight. Her vision blurred, then sharpened with unnatural clarity. Sounds amplified and faded. The sensation terrified her more than the footsteps she could hear gaining ground behind her. 30 miles away, Cole Ashford stopped mid-sentence during the board meeting at Ashford Industries. The executive boardroom fell silent as the CEO suddenly stiffened, his nostrils flaring slightly. The scent hit him like a physical blow. Impossible. After centuries of waiting, after generations of disappointment, the scent of an Omega in his territory cut through the sterile air of corporate power like a forgotten memory. The board members shifted uncomfortably as Cole's eyes momentarily gleamed with an inhuman light. "Meeting adjourned," he said, his voice brooking no argument. No one dared object as the most powerful man in New York stood and straightened his immaculate suit. "We'll continue tomorrow." As the room emptied, Cole walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. The beast within him clawed at his consciousness, demanding release. An Omega here now, his Omega. The curse that had plagued his bloodline for centuries surged in response, turning what should have been elation into searing pain behind his ribs. Cole weathered it stoically, as he had endured all pain throughout his unnaturally long life. Luke Carter, his beta and close confidant, remained in the room after the others had filed out. "What is it?" he asked, recognizing the tension in his alpha's stance. Cole didn't turn from the window. "She's here in Omega." Luke's sharp intake of breath was the only indication of his shock. "After all this time, are you certain?" "I would know that scent in death," Cole replied, his hands clenched at his sides. "Find her before the others sense her too." Emily West hunched over her laptop in the university library, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she organized her research notes. At 25, she was younger than most PhD candidates at Columbia University. But her work on Native American folklore had already garnered attention from prominent scholars in the field. Her current focus on shapeshifter legends had started as academic curiosity. Now it felt like obsession. Something about the ancient stories of humans transforming into wolves called to her on a level she couldn't explain. The dreams had started months ago. Dreams of running through forests on 4 legs instead of 2. Dreams of moonlight, pack and belonging. Dreams that felt more like memories. Emily rubbed her eyes, trying to focus. The library windows revealed a slate-gray October sky hanging over New York City. The same dream had woken her again last night, running through an unfamiliar forest pursued by something she couldn't see but instinctively feared. Each time the dreams became more vivid, more urgent. Professor Adrian Holt had called her research groundbreaking just yesterday when she'd uncovered references to a mysterious tribe called the Onyx, whose members were said to possess the ability to transform into wolves at will. Most scholars dismissed such tales as metaphorical or hallucinogenic in origin. Emily wasn't so sure. Her phone vibrated with a text from Professor Holt. "Gray collection access approved. The museum curator expects you tomorrow at 10 a.m. This is extraordinary. Make the most of it." Emily's heart raced. The Gray collection at the Museum of Natural History was legendary among anthropologists. Accumulated by generations of the wealthy Gray family, it contained artifacts and manuscripts related to Native American culture that were unavailable anywhere else. Researchers rarely gained access to the collection, which remained under the strict control of the current Gray patriarch. This could make her career. This could answer questions that had haunted her since childhood. Questions about why she never felt like she belonged anywhere. Why foster home after foster home had felt temporary, regardless of how kind the families were. Why something always seemed to be missing, a hole in her chest that nothing could fill. What Emily didn't know was that across the city, Cole Ashford sat in his penthouse office, watching the sun sink below the horizon. At 40, his dark hair was touched with silver at the temples, but his face remained unlined. His body was powerful beneath his tailored suit. To the casual observer, he appeared to be a man in his prime, blessed with genetics that defied his age. But the truth was far more complex. Cole Ashford was the alpha king of the Eastern Packs, the most powerful werewolf in North America. His family had ruled the territory for centuries, maintaining order among the packs and ensuring their existence remained hidden from human society. The Ashford business empire provided cover for their activities, offering the resources needed to protect their kind. The curse afflicting his bloodline was older than the country itself. Every alpha of his line was destined to experience love as pain, pleasure as torment. A cruel twist of fate designed to keep the most powerful beings from experiencing the one emotion that might soften their resolve. Cole had built his empire across the eastern seaboard, living in a restored mansion in the Hudson Valley, surrounded by loyal pack members who respected the distance he kept from the heart of his own existence. The curse had made him cold, calculating, and ruthlessly effective. It had also left him profoundly alone. Luke Carter entered the office without knocking, their long friendship transcending formalities. "The board is concerned about your abrupt departure," he said, placing a folder on Cole's desk. "The board serves at my pleasure," Cole replied coolly. "Any word on our unexpected visitor?" Luke's expression tightened. "Nothing yet, but we're not the only ones who might have sensed her. Damian Blackwood has been unusually active lately." Cole's jaw clenched at the mention of his oldest enemy. Damian Blackwood led the Crimson Pack, a group that had opposed Cole's leadership for generations. Unlike Cole, who valued tradition and order, Damian sought power at any cost, disregarding the ancient laws that had kept their kind safe for centuries. "He knows," Cole said with certainty in his voice. "Somehow he already knows about her." "Impossible," Luke argued. "If an Omega had appeared, we would have sensed it first. This is our territory." Cole turned to face his beta, his eyes cold. "Damian has spies everywhere. We can't underestimate him." What neither man realized was that Damian Blackwood had indeed learned of the potential Omega through less supernatural means. His human employees had flagged an interesting research proposal from a Columbia University doctoral student. A background check revealed anomalies, an orphan with no known relatives. Foster care records mentioning strange incidents, and a blood test from a routine medical exam that had been flagged due to markers that were almost but not quite human. Damian had already dispatched watchers to observe Emily West. He remained uncertain whether she was truly an Omega or merely carried latent genes. But either way, she represented an opportunity. Omegas were thought to be extinct. Their bloodlines had been diluted or hunted to extinction centuries ago. If she was indeed an Omega, possessing her would give him unprecedented power enough perhaps to finally challenge the Ashford dominance. The following morning, Emily arrived at the Museum of Natural History, her heart pounding with anticipation. The Ashford collection occupied a private wing, accessible only to approved scholars. The curator, a nervous man named Dr. Ethan Cole, led her through security protocols that seemed excessive for academic materials. "The Ashford family is extremely protective of these artifacts," Dr. Cole explained, as they reached a secure room lined with glass cases and climate-controlled storage units. "You have 2 hours today." "Mr. Ashford was most insistent about the time limit," Emily asked, surprised. "Cole Ashford oversees all access to the family collection," Dr. Cole said. "He'll actually be here later today for a board meeting. The Ashfords have been major benefactors of the museum for generations." Emily nodded already, distracted by the treasures before her. Ancient manuscripts, ceremonial objects, detailed records of tribes long forgotten by mainstream history. She began carefully photographing and taking notes on anything related to the Onyx tribe or shapeshifter legends. Nearly an hour into her research, she found it. A small leather-bound journal written in a combination of English and an indigenous language she didn't recognize. The journal belonged to a missionary who had lived among the Onyx in the early 1800s. As Emily carefully turned the brittle pages, her fingers brushed over a strange symbol embossed on the inside cover. The moment her skin made contact with the symbol, a jolt of electricity shot up her arm. The room around her seemed to vibrate, colors intensifying before fading. For an instant, she thought she heard howling in the distance. Cole Ashford was concluding his meeting with the museum board when he felt it. A surge of energy that made every supernatural sense he possessed stand at attention. The Omega was here in his museum, close enough that her scent filled his consciousness, drowning out all other thoughts. He ended the meeting abruptly and strode through the museum halls with purpose, following the scent that called to him on a primal level. Security guards and staff stepped aside, instinctively responding to the aura of authority that surrounded him, even when he wasn't consciously projecting it. Cole Ashford reached the secure room just as Emily West was returning the journal to its case. She turned at the sound of the door opening, and their eyes met across the room. Time seemed to stand still. The air between them crackled with invisible energy. Emily felt her heart skip a beat, then race uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet her body refused to move. The man before her radiated power like nothing she'd ever felt before. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes that shifted between gray and ice blue. His tailored suit did little to hide the strength beneath, but it was more than his physical appearance that overwhelmed her. Something about him reached deep inside her, bypassing her conscious mind and seizing hold of something primal. For Cole, the moment was just as earth-shattering. Her scent engulfed him, confirming what he already knew. An omega. His omega. His wolf surged forward with such force that he nearly lost his balance. The curse flared in response, turning what should have been a joyful recognition into searing agony that twisted his expression. Emily stepped back, alarmed by the intensity of his gaze. "I'm sorry, I have permission to be here. Dr. Cole can confirm." Cole forced his features into a neutral expression despite the pain radiating through his chest. "Miss West, I presume." "I'm Cole Ashford." "Oh, Mr. Ashford. I didn't realize. Thank you for granting me access to your collection. The materials are extraordinary." Cole moved closer, drawn in despite the pain her proximity caused. "What specifically interests you about the Onyx tribe? Their shapeshifter legends?" Emily replied, scholarly enthusiasm briefly overcoming her unease. "They're unique among indigenous folklore for their detail and consistency. The Onyx described werewolves not as monsters but as protectors, organized in complex social hierarchies, with distinct roles. Roles such as..." Cole prompted, watching her intently. "Alphas, betas." Emily hesitated, feeling lightheaded as she met his gaze. "And omegas. Though references to omegas are rare and they're often described as having been lost or destroyed." Cole nodded, maintaining a careful distance. "And why does this particular aspect of folklore fascinate you, Miss West?" Before Emily could answer, her phone chimed with a text alert. She glanced down reflexively, then froze. The message was from an unknown number. "Get out now, you're in danger." Cole noticed her sudden pallor. "Is something wrong? I need to go," Emily stammered, gathering her notes with shaking hands. "Thank you for the access to your collection." She moved toward the door, instinct screaming at her, to distance herself from the inexplicable danger she sensed. As she passed Cole, their shoulders brushed accidentally. The contact sent a shock through both of them. Cole inhaled sharply, feeling the rush of pain land through him. Far more intense than the usual ache her presence caused. Emily gasped as something electric raced through her nerves, awakening a sensation she'd never felt before. For an instant, Cole's eyes flashed gold. Emily saw it clearly, unmistakably inhuman. She ran. Cole let her go, fists clenched at his sides, as he fought for control. He could pursue her. He should pursue her. Every fiber of his being demanded he claim what was his, but centuries of discipline held him in place. The curse ensured that any attempt at connection would bring only pain. The kindest thing he could do was stay away. Even as he thought it, he pulled out his phone and called Luke. "She's here. Find her, keep her safe." "From Victor?" Luke asked. "From everyone," Cole replied, his voice steady. "Including me." Outside the museum, Emily hurried down the steps, her mind racing. The text message, the strange reaction to the journal. The man with eyes that changed color, the jolt when they touched. None of it made sense yet. All of it felt connected to the dreams, to the emptiness inside her that had never been filled. She was so distracted that she didn't notice the men following her until she turned down a less crowded side street. 3 of them, moving with a predatory grace, closing the distance between them with each step. Emily quickened her pace, her heart hammering against her ribs. A black SUV pulled alongside her, its tinted windows revealing nothing of the occupants. The vehicle kept pace with her as she walked faster, then began to jog. The men behind her broke into a run. Panic seized her as she sprinted, ducking down an alley in hopes of losing her pursuers. It was a mistake. The alley ended at a chain-link fence too high to climb quickly. Emily West turned to retrace her steps, but the entrance was blocked by the 3 men. Their eyes gleamed with an unnatural light in the shadowed alley. "Miss West," one of them said, his voice deep and rumbling, sending a shiver down her spine. "Our Alpha would like to speak with you." "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily replied, backing away until she felt the cold metal of the fence behind her. "Leave me alone or I'll scream." The men exchanged amused glances. "Screaming won't help you here," another one said. You'll come with us, one way or another. Damian Blackwood doesn't like to be kept waiting. As they advanced, Emily felt something strange happening to her body. The same fever from her dreams spread through her limbs. Her vision sharpened unnaturally and colors became more vivid. Her hearing amplified, and she could hear the men's heartbeats, the steady thrum of their fear, and something else, something primal, surging through her veins. "Stay back," she warned, her voice shaking. The men continued forward, unfazed by her resistance. But before they could reach her, another figure appeared at the alley entrance, tall and broad-shouldered, moving with lethal grace. "The lady said to stay back." Luke Carter's voice rang out, commanding the men to hesitate. "This doesn't concern Grace Pack," their leader growled. "The Omega is unclaimed. She's under our protection," Luke corrected, stepping further into the alley. His eyes flashed amber. "Leave now, and Damian won't need to know you failed." For a moment, Emily thought violence was inevitable. The air thickened with tension as the two groups faced off. Then reluctantly, Damian's men retreated toward the alley entrance. "This isn't over," their leader warned. "She belongs to Damian. The strong take what they want, and Ashford has grown weak." Luke's lip curled into a subtle snarl. "Tell Damian that if he wants war, we'll give him war." The men retreated, disappearing into the busy street beyond. Luke turned his attention to Emily, who pressed herself against the fence, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Miss West," he said, his voice gentler now. "I'm Luke Carter. I work with Cole Ashford. You're in danger, and I'm here to help you." "What's happening to me?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Who were those men? What did they mean by Omega?" Luke approached slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I can explain everything, but not here. We need to get you somewhere safe first. Damian's men won't give up easily." Emily hesitated, caught between the fear of the unknown and the instinctive understanding that this man was telling the truth. "How do I know I can trust you?" "You don't," Luke admitted. "But consider this. If I wanted to harm you, would I have chased away those men?" It wasn't the most reassuring argument, but Emily's options were limited. The strange sensations in her body were intensifying, and she needed answers more than safety. "Where are we going?" she asked, accepting the inevitable. "A safe house nearby," Luke replied, leading her toward a sleek black car parked at the curb. "Cole will meet us there." "I don't understand any of this," Emily said as she slid into the passenger seat. "The dreams, the fever, my research. It's all connected somehow, isn't it?" Luke glanced at her as he pulled into traffic, surprise evident in his expression. "Dreams? How long have you been having them?" "Months now," Emily admitted. "Running through forests, being chased, feeling like I'm not entirely human." Luke's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "You're more perceptive than most. That will make this easier." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Miss West, what do you know about werewolves?" Emily almost laughed, but something in his expression stopped her. "They're myths. Folklore. Cultural metaphors for the beast within humanity." "And if I told you they're not myths at all?" Luke asked, his eyes briefly meeting hers. "That werewolves walk among humans every day, hidden in plain sight. That you, Emily West, carry the blood of the most rare and valuable werewolf." The car stopped at a red light. Emily stared at Luke, searching for any sign he was joking. Finding none, she felt something shift within her, like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. The dreams, the emptiness, the never-ending feeling of not belonging. "I'd say you sound insane," she whispered. "Except for the fact that I just saw 3 men with glowing eyes try to kidnap me. And your eyes change color too. And Cole Ashford." The light turned green. Luke Carter accelerated through the intersection. "We're not insane," he said quietly. "And neither are you. You're an Omega, Emily. The first true Omega to appear in generations. And that makes you very valuable, and very much in danger." As the car wove through Manhattan traffic, Emily gazed out the window at the city she thought she knew. Everything looked the same, yet everything had changed. She couldn't go back to the life she'd had before. Something told her that once she learned the full truth, nothing would ever be the same again. In his penthouse office, Cole Ashford stood at the window watching the city below as darkness fell. The pain in his chest had settled into a persistent ache. After centuries of solitude, fate had shown him his mate, only to remind him that the curse made any connection impossible. Every touch would bring agony instead of comfort. His phone rang. Luke's voice came through, crisp and urgent. "I have her. She's safe. Damian's men made a move, but I intercepted them." Cole closed his eyes briefly in relief. Bring her to the safe house. I'll meet you there. She's already asking questions, Cole, smart ones. And she's been having dreams. Her Omega nature is awakening on its own. Tell her nothing more until I arrive, Cole ordered. This changes everything, Luke. If Damian gets his hands on an Omega, he won't, Luke promised. Not while any of us draw breath. Cole ended the call and gazed at his reflection in the darkened window. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty clouded his mind. The curse had shaped his existence for so long that he barely remembered life before it. Now with Emily's appearance, impossible hope warred with bitter experience. If anyone could break the curse, it would be an Omega. But was he willing to risk her suffering to attempt it? The curse ensured that what should bring comfort brought only pain. Previous generations' experiments had proved that attempts to circumvent it only made the suffering worse for both parties. The kindest thing would be to keep her safe, teach her about her nature, then let her go, find her a suitable mate from another pack, one not afflicted by the Ashford curse. Someone who could give her the connection she deserved without the pain that came with his touch. The very thought sent a wave of possessive rage through him. Mine. His wolf snarled within his mind. My Omega. Cole straightened his shoulders, decision made. He would meet with Emily, explain her nature and the danger she faced. He would assign protection to keep her safe from Damian and others who might seek to use her, and then he would step back, maintaining the distance that centuries of pain had taught him was necessary. Even as he made this resolution, something deeper, something primal whispered that fate would not be so easily denied. The appearance of an Omega after so many generations could not be coincidence. Their paths had crossed for a reason. The moon rose over New York City full and bright. Cole felt its pull, the urging of his wolf to run free beneath its light. Tonight, more than any night in recent memory, the human facade felt constrictive, inadequate to contain the emotions warring within him. He turned from the window and headed for the elevator. Emily West awaited his Omega, his curse, his impossible hope. The hunt had begun. The safe house was a luxury penthouse apartment in a discreet building near Central Park. As Luke led Emily inside, she noticed the elegant but understated furnishings, the state-of-the-art security system, and the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the Manhattan skyline. Nothing about it felt temporary or makeshift. "This is a safe house?" Emily asked, unable to keep the incredulity from her voice. Luke smiled slightly as he deactivated the security system. "The Ashford family has resources. Make yourself comfortable. Cole will be here soon." Emily crossed to the windows, gazing out at the city lights. The fever that had seized her earlier had subsided to a low simmer beneath her skin. Her senses, however, remained unnaturally sharp. She could hear Luke's heartbeat from across the room, smell the faint scent of pine, and something wild that clung to him. "Those men," she said without turning. "What would they have done if they'd taken me?" Luke's reflection in the window showed his expression hardening. Damian Blackwood is an alpha with ambitions. He seeks power above all else, with no regard for our laws or traditions. An Omega would be valuable to him. "You keep using that word, Omega. What does it mean?" Emily turned to face him. "And don't tell me to wait for Cole. I deserve some answers now." Luke studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fair enough." He paused, gathering his thoughts before speaking. "In simplest terms, werewolves have designations that define their place in the pack hierarchy. Alphas lead Beta's support, and others fill various roles." Luke continued. "Omegas are the rarest designation, thought to have died out generations ago." "And you think I'm one of these Omegas based on what?" Emily challenged, though her racing heart betrayed her certainty that his words contained truth. "You're scent for one," Luke said. "Every wolf has a distinctive scent signature. Omegas have a unique quality that can't be mistaken for anything else. The fact that Damian's wolves tracked you confirms it," he added. "They wouldn't have bothered otherwise." "But I'm not a werewolf," Emily protested. "I've never transformed. I would know if I were some kind of supernatural creature." "Omega traits can lie dormant for generations," Luke explained. "You're likely descended from wolves who chose to live as humans, diluting the bloodline without eliminating it completely. Your research into the Onyx tribe suggests you were unconsciously seeking answers about your heritage." Before Emily could respond, the elevator chimed. Luke straightened, his posture stiffening with tension. A moment later, Cole Ashford strode into the apartment, his presence immediately filling the space. Emily felt it like a physical pressure against her skin, commanding attention and respect. "Miss West." Cole greeted her, his voice deep and controlled. He maintained a careful distance, positioning himself across the room from her. I apologize for the circumstances of our meeting. Are you unharmed? Emily found herself unable to look away from him. The same inexplicable attraction she'd felt at the museum returned tenfold. Something primitive within her responded to his presence, recognizing something her conscious mind couldn't comprehend. I'm fine, she managed, confused and scared but physically unharmed. Cole nodded. Luke has explained the basics of your situation. He says I'm something called an Omega werewolf, Emily said, watching Cole's face carefully. That I'm valuable. That people are hunting me. What he hasn't explained is why I should believe any of this. A faint smile touched Cole's lips. A valid concern. Would evidence help? Before Emily could answer, Cole's eyes shifted from icy blue to brilliant gold. The change was swift and unmistakable. No context or trick of the light could explain it. Emily took an involuntary step backward, her back pressing against the window. That's... she began, then faltered. How did you... It's a partial shift, Cole explained, his eyes returning to normal. Full transformations are more dramatic, but I doubt you're ready for that demonstration just yet. Emily's mind raced, trying to reconcile her academic knowledge with the living proof standing before her. Assuming I believe you, which is a significant assumption, what does this mean for me? Am I going to start changing, growing fur and fangs at the full moon? Your Omega nature is awakening, Cole said, his tone matter-of-fact. The dreams, the enhanced senses, the fever you've experienced, these are all signs. Whether you undergo a full transformation depends on various factors, including exposure to established wolves and certain triggers. He paused, studying her with an intensity that made her skin flush. What matters now is keeping you safe while you adjust to this new reality, he continued. Damian Blackwood won't be your only pursuer once word spreads that an Omega has appeared. Why? Emily demanded. What makes Omega so special that people would hunt me? Cole and Luke exchanged a look, one that seemed to carry centuries of shared understanding. It was Luke who answered. Omegas possess unique abilities. They can soothe the savage nature of other wolves, ease pain, and strengthen pack bonds. In ancient times, packs with Omegas were stronger, more stable, Luke continued. Some legends suggest they could even break curses. Emily didn't miss the way Cole's jaw tightened at those last words. Curses? Now you're talking about magic, Emily said, her voice steady despite the surreal nature of the conversation. What would you call transformation into a wolf? Cole asked quietly. Where do you think the line between science and magic exists in a world where such things are possible? The question silenced her. He was right, of course. If werewolves were real, why not curses too? I'd like to offer you my protection, Cole continued. A suite in the Hudson Valley where you'll be safe from Damian and others who might seek to use you. Luke and others from my pack can teach you about your nature and help you control the changes you're experiencing. And in exchange, Emily asked, weariness in her tone. What do you want from me? Cole's expression remained impassive. Your safety is paramount. You're an Omega in my territory, which makes you my responsibility. Cole Ashford's voice was calm, but his words carried weight. That's not an answer, Emily challenged. You're a businessman, Mr. Ashford. No one offers protection without expecting something in return. Respect flickered in Cole's eyes. Perceptive. In wolf terms, he continued, offering protection typically implies claiming rights over the protected. But I assure you, my offer comes with no such expectations. His words should have reassured her, but Emily sensed something was being left unsaid. Something in his carefully neutral expression suggested there were complications he wasn't sharing. I appreciate the offer, she said slowly, but I need time to think. This is overwhelming. Of course, Cole nodded. However, I must insist you remain here tonight. Damian's men will be watching your apartment. Tomorrow we can discuss arrangements that respect your autonomy while ensuring your safety. He moved toward the elevator, maintaining the strange distance he'd kept since arriving. Luke will stay to answer any questions and ensure your security. I have business to attend to. Emily's voice faltered slightly. You're leaving. She was surprised by the disappointment that coursed through her. Cole paused and turned back toward her. It's better this way, he said, his voice carrying a rough edge that hadn't been there before. Without further explanation, he entered the elevator and was gone. Luke sighed as the doors closed. He's not usually so abrupt, Luke said. What isn't he telling me? Emily asked, turning to him. There's something about me that affects him specifically, isn't there? I saw how he reacted when we touched at the museum. It hurt him somehow. Luke hesitated, torn between his loyalty to his alpha and the need to prepare Emily for what lay ahead. It's not my place to explain Mason's personal matters, he said finally. But yes, there are complications regarding your Omega nature and his position as Alpha King. Alpha King, not just Alpha? Emily asked, struggling to understand. Mason isn't merely the leader of a single pack, Luke explained. He's the ruler of all the Eastern packs, the most powerful werewolf on this side of the country. His bloodline has maintained order among wolves for centuries. Emily processed this information, trying to make sense of the rapidly expanding world she was now part of. And this bloodline has some issue with Omegas. Not with Omegas specifically, Luke said carefully. But there are aspects of his heritage that make certain connections problematic. Before Emily could press for more details, Luke's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened to the caller. Understood. Increase security and inform Nora. He hung up and turned to Emily. Damian's gathering allies. We've detected unusual movement among several packs that typically support him. What does that mean? Emily asked, her heart sinking. It means you should reconsider Mason's offer sooner rather than later, Luke replied grimly. The safe house will hold for tonight, but Damian's resources are substantial. He won't give up easily. Sleep eluded Emily that night, despite the luxurious guest bedroom Jack had shown her to. Her mind raced with the impossibilities that had become reality in the span of a day. Werewolves. Alphas and Omegas. Cole Ashford with his golden eyes and inexplicable pain. Damian Blackwood hunting her for power she didn't understand nor believe she possessed. She dozed fitfully, waking frequently from dreams more vivid than ever. Running through forests, the scent of pine and earth. And new elements. A silver wolf with ice-blue eyes running beside her, protecting her from shadows that pursued them both. When morning came, Emily made her decision. Whatever this new reality entailed, facing it alone wasn't an option. She needed allies' information and protection. For now, at least, Cole Ashford offered all three. Luke drove her to the Hudson Valley estate later that morning. As they passed through massive wrought iron gates and wound up a tree-lined drive, Emily's jaw dropped at the sight of Cole's home. The manor house was a magnificent stone structure that looked like it had been transported from the English countryside, surrounded by acres of manicured grounds that gave way to dense forest. This isn't a house, Emily murmured. It's a castle. Luke smiled slightly. It's been in the Ashford family for generations. The original structure was built in the late 1800s, though Cole has modernized the interior considerably. As they approached, Emily noticed figures moving across the grounds. Some were clearly security personnel, but others moved with the same predatory grace she'd observed in Luke and Cole. Pack members, she realized. This wasn't merely a home, but a sanctuary for werewolves. The car stopped at the front entrance where Cole Ashford was waiting for them. Dressed casually in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater, he looked just as powerful as he had in his business suit. Sunlight caught the silver in his dark hair, and his eyes, now a clear blue-gray, watched Emily with an intensity that felt like a force. "Miss West," he greeted her, his voice smooth. "Welcome to Ashford Manor." As she approached him, Emily felt that strange pull again, the one that made her want to get closer, yet run away all at once. Her senses, still unnaturally sharp, picked up his scent. Something masculine, and wild like cedar and night air. Her heart raced traitorously. "Thank you for your hospitality," she said, stopping at what seemed a safe distance. "I've decided to accept your protection, at least temporarily," she added, her voice steady. Something flickered in Cole's expression, too quick to interpret. "A wise decision," he said. "Luke will show you to your suite. Once you've settled in, perhaps you'll join me in the library. I believe you'll find my collection of onyx manuscripts more extensive than what the museum holds." The offer caught her interest immediately. "I'd like that," she replied. Cole nodded and turned to Luke. "Ensure Miss West has everything she needs. Nora will arrive this evening to begin your instruction." As Cole walked away, Emily couldn't help but notice how he moved with the confident grace of someone completely at ease in their territory, a predator in his element. Despite his civilized appearance, there was something untamed about him that called to something equally wild inside her. Luke led her to a suite of rooms in the east wing of the manor, a beautiful space with a bedroom, sitting room, and private bathroom, all decorated in soothing blues and creams. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the estate grounds and the forest beyond. "This is for me?" Emily asked, stunned by the luxury. "Cole wanted you to be comfortable," Luke replied. The east wing is private, separated from the main pack quarters. You'll have space to adjust at your own pace. After Luke left, Emily explored her new accommodations. The closets already contained clothing in her size, everything from casual wear to elegant dresses. The bathroom was stocked with high-end toiletries. A desk in the sitting room held a new laptop and a stack of books on wolf mythology from various cultures. The thoroughness of the preparation was both impressive and slightly unsettling. How long had Cole been expecting her? Or did he simply command resources that made such arrangements effortless? After showering and changing into jeans and a soft sweater from the provided wardrobe, Emily made her way to the library. She followed Luke's directions through the manor, noting the blend of traditional architecture and modern amenities. The few pack members she passed regarded her with undisguised curiosity, but kept their distance respectfully. The library took her breath away. 2 stories of floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with ancient tomes and modern volumes alike. A massive fireplace dominated one wall with comfortable leather seating arranged before it. The scent of old paper and leather binding filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of burning logs. Cole stood near a large wooden table where several manuscripts lay open. He looked up as she entered, and once again, Emily felt that inexplicable pull. It was stronger here in his personal space, surrounded by his scent. "You look more rested," he observed, his deep voice resonating in the spacious room. Emily approached the table, careful to maintain some distance between them. "The circumstances are surreal, but I can't deny the accommodations are excellent." A faint smile touched Cole's lips. "I believe in providing comfort when possible. Life offers enough hardships without adding unnecessary discomfort." "Is that why you stay away from me?" Emily asked directly. "Because my presence causes you discomfort." Cole's expression briefly surprised her, but his features quickly returned to their usual control. "You're observant." "You wince when I get too close," Emily said, her voice soft. "At the museum when we touched you, looked like you were in pain. Why is that, Mr. Ashford?" "Cole, please," he said, then hesitated before continuing. "There are aspects of my nature as Alpha that complicate interactions with an Omega, particularly an Omega who is—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Who is what?" Emily prompted. Cole's gaze met hers directly. "Who is potentially compatible as a mate." The word hung in the air between them, charged with implications Emily only partially understood. "A mate? You mean like wolves in the wild for life?" "Where wolves retain many aspects of their wolf nature," Cole explained, "including the recognition of compatible mates. It's rare and usually instantaneous, a recognition on a level beyond conscious thought." "And you think I'm your mate?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "My wolf recognized you the moment we met," Cole confirmed. "But there are complications." "The pain," Emily said, understanding dawning. "Something about me causes you physical pain." Cole turned away, moving toward the fireplace. The flames cast shadows over his face as he spoke. "Not you specifically. My bloodline carries a curse placed centuries ago by enemies of the Ashford pack. Every alpha in my line is destined to feel love as pain, pleasure as torment," he said, turning back to face her, his expression solemn. "When mates connect, it should be a source of comfort, pleasure, a sense of completion. The curse twists these sensations into their opposite. What should bring joy brings suffering instead." Emily struggled to process this revelation. "So when we touched, it felt like fire in my veins." Cole's voice was low, heavy with the weight of his confession. "Sharp, immediate, and spreading like ice through my body." "I'm sorry," Emily said, her heart aching at the thought of causing him pain. Cole shook his head. "You have nothing to apologize for. The curse is my burden to bear, as it has been for every Ashford Alpha for generations." "Is there no way to break it?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. A shadow crossed Cole's features. "Many have tried," he said, his tone grim. "All have failed. The magic that created the curse was ancient and specific, designed to exploit the very strength of alpha instincts." Emily approached the table again, drawn to the manuscripts laid out before her. Ancient drawings depicted wolves in human form, some with crowns or symbols of authority. One illustration in particular caught her eye. A crowned wolf standing protectively over a smaller figure whose aura was drawn in gold. "The Alpha King and his Omega," the caption read beneath the image. "Together they balance power with mercy, strength with healing." She looked up at Cole, who was watching her with an unreadable expression. "These don't read like fiction or folklore." She said, "They're written as historical accounts." "Because they are," Cole said. "The history your academic world has either forgotten or dismissed as myth." Emily's fingers traced the illustrations. A question formed in her mind. If Omegas were known for healing and balance, is it possible they could heal a curse? Cole's body tensed visibly. "There are theories," he admitted reluctantly. "Ancient texts speak of the unique bond between alphas and omegas as having transformative properties. But as I said, omegas were thought to be extinct until you appeared. There's no record of how an omega might affect the curse," he continued, the weight of those words hanging heavily between them. Emily felt the possibility of a connection to this man, a bond that transcended ordinary understanding, terrifying and thrilling her in equal measure. "Is that why you're helping me?" she asked softly. "Because you hope I might break your curse?" Cole moved closer, stopping just short of the distance that seemed to cause him discomfort. "I'm helping you because you're an omega in my territory, under my protection by right and responsibility. Whether you ever choose to explore the mate bond between us is entirely your decision, Emily. I would never presume or pressure you." The formal declaration carried the weight of centuries of tradition. Yet Emily heard the man beneath the Alpha King, the loneliness of an existence defined by pain and duty. Something within her, the omega nature she was only beginning to understand, responded to his words with a surge of protectiveness that surprised her with its intensity. Before she could respond, the library door opened. A striking woman, with auburn hair and sharp features, entered her presence, commanding attention. "Catherine!" Cole greeted her. "You're early." Catherine's gaze fixed on Emily, assessing her with an intensity that felt almost physical. "So it's true," she said. "A genuine omega. I had to see for myself." "Emily, this is Catherine Blake." Cole introduced them. "Alpha of the Riverdale Pack and my ally for many years." Emily noted the designation immediately. "A female alpha," she said, surprised. Catherine's lips curved into a slight smile. "That alphas are exclusively male is a common misconception even among our kind. Female alphas are rare but not unheard of." "Catherine has agreed to help with your training," Cole explained. "Her experience with new wolves is extensive, and as a female alpha, she offers perspective I cannot." "Training for what exactly?" Emily asked, still confused. "Control," Catherine replied simply. "The changes you're experiencing will intensify. Without proper guidance, your emerging abilities could become dangerous to yourself and others." As if summoned by her words, the now familiar fever swept through Emily's body. Her vision blurred, then sharpened painfully, colors becoming unnaturally vivid. Sounds amplified the crackling fire suddenly, as loud as a bonfire, the steady heartbeats of Cole and Catherine thundering in her ears. "It's happening again!" Emily gasped, doubling over as her muscles spasmed painfully. Catherine was at her side immediately, her touch firm on Emily's arm. "Breathe through it," she instructed. "Don't fight the sensations. Let them flow through you like water." Cole moved back, his expression torn between concern and the necessity of maintaining distance. The pain in his eyes as he watched her struggle pierced Emily's own discomfort. Even in his own suffering, Cole Ashford worried for her. "Focus on my voice," Catherine said, her tone firm but gentle. "Your body is remembering what it means to be wolf. The first transitions are always the hardest." Emily closed her eyes, following Catherine's instructions. Gradually, the overwhelming sensation started to subside, becoming more manageable. When she opened her eyes again, both Catherine and Cole were watching her with expressions of approval mixed with something like awe. "What?" Emily asked, disconcerted by their stares. "Your eyes," Catherine said softly. "They changed, golden like honey and sunlight. The mark of an omega." "I changed." Panic slipped into Emily's voice. "Am I going to transform completely?" Catherine shook her head. "Not yet. Partial shifts come first, especially for latent wolves. The full transformation requires specific triggers and training." Cole had moved to the far side of the library, maintaining the distance that seemed to ease his discomfort. "Catherine will help you understand and control these episodes. With time, you'll be able to manage the shift at will, rather than it being triggered by stress or strong emotions." Emily nodded, still shaken by the experience. "And these abilities, you mentioned the ones that make omegas valuable. They'll manifest gradually," Catherine explained. "The most fundamental one is the calming influence on other wolves. Omegas can soothe the savage nature, helping maintain control during stressful times or full moons. Other abilities vary, but often include heightened empathy, a healing touch, and strengthening pack bonds. Which is why Damian wants me," Emily concluded. An Omega would make his pack stronger, give him an advantage against other alphas. Among other reasons. Catherine agreed, her expression darkening. Damian's ambitions extend beyond mere pack strength. He seeks dominance over all Eastern packs, a position Cole has held for generations. An Omega under his control would give him leverage even against an Alpha King. Emily glanced at Cole, who stood silhouetted against the windows. His powerful frame was rigid with tension. "How long have you been Alpha King?" she asked. "Longer than you might believe," Cole replied enigmatically. "The Ashford line has maintained order among the Eastern packs for centuries. Damian's family, the Blackwoods, have opposed our leadership for nearly as long." "It's more than politics," Catherine added. "The Blackwoods believe in dominance through fear and force. Cole governs through respect and tradition," Catherine continued. "Two fundamentally different philosophies of leadership, and I'm caught in the middle." Emily felt the weight of her situation settling on her. "Not in the middle," Cole corrected. "Under my protection. Damian won't touch you while I draw breath." His fierce declaration sent a shiver through Emily. That had nothing to do with her emerging Omega nature. It was all about the man behind the Alpha. Despite the curse, despite the pain her presence caused him, his determination to protect her was absolute. Catherine observed the exchange with knowing eyes. "We should begin your training immediately," she said to Emily. "The more control you gain, the safer you'll be, regardless of external threats." Cole nodded in agreement. "Use the East Courtyard. It's private and secure." As Catherine led Emily from the library, she glanced back at Cole. He stood by the fireplace, one hand braced against the stone mantel. His posture suggested he was fighting an internal battle. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, and once again Emily felt that inexplicable pull, the connection that transcended ordinary understanding. In that moment she made a silent promise to herself. She would master this new reality, these emerging abilities. And somehow she would find a way to ease the burden Cole had carried for far too long. The East Courtyard was a secluded space enclosed by stone walls covered in ivy. A central fountain provided a gentle background sound as water splashed into the basin below. The October air carried a crisp chill, but Emily barely noticed it. Her body temperature naturally higher since the changes began. "Where will my physiology differ from human? In several ways," Catherine explained as they sat on a stone bench. "Enhanced strength, speed, and senses are the most obvious. But there are subtler differences too, accelerated healing resistance to most diseases, and longer lifespans." "Longer lifespans?" Emily asked, intrigued. "How much longer?" Catherine's smile held secrets. "That depends on the wolf's power and designation. Betas might live twice a human lifespan. Alphas considerably longer," Catherine added. "In Cole," Emily pressed. "How old is he really?" "That's his story to share," Catherine replied. "But I'll say this," Luke Carter continued. "He's seen more history than your academic studies would suggest possible." The revelation added yet another layer to the enigma that was Cole Ashford. Emily tried to reconcile the modern businessman with the possibility that he had lived through events she had only read about in history books. "Now," Catherine Blake said, breaking her thoughts, "let's focus on controlling your shifts. The key is understanding that your wolf isn't a separate entity, but another aspect of yourself. Not a beast to be caged, but a nature to be embraced and directed." For the next hour, Catherine guided Emily through exercises designed to help her recognize and manage the sensations that preceded a shift. They practiced breathing techniques, mental imagery, and methods to channel the enhanced senses that threatened to overwhelm her. "You're a natural," Catherine observed as Emily successfully calmed herself after an intense surge of sensation. "Most new wolves struggle for weeks to achieve what you've managed in a day." "Maybe it's the Omega in me," Emily suggested. "Or perhaps my academic background helps. I'm used to analyzing and categorizing information." Catherine nodded thoughtfully. "Both likely, and something else too. There's a strength in you, Emily. A core of determination that will serve you well in this new life." As they continued practicing, Emily felt her confidence growing. The changes that had terrified her began to feel less like an invasion and more like a homecoming, a return to something her body had always known but her mind had forgotten. By late afternoon, she could control the partial shift enough to change her eye color at will, a seemingly small achievement that Catherine assured her represented significant progress. They were concluding the session when Luke appeared at the courtyard entrance, his expression tense. Catherine paused a moment. As the two conferred in low voices, Emily focused her enhanced hearing, catching fragments of their conversation. "Movement along the northern boundary. Damian's scouts. Cole wants increased security. Catherine returned her face, betraying none of the concern Emily had heard in their exchange. "We'll continue tomorrow," she said briskly. "You've made excellent progress today. Rest this evening, and allow your body to adjust to the changes." "Damian's men are near the estate, aren't they?" Emily asked directly. Catherine's eyebrows rose slightly. "Your hearing has improved faster than expected. Is Cole in danger because of me?" The question revealed more of Emily's growing attachment than she'd intended. "Cole has dealt with Damian's provocations for longer than you can imagine," Catherine assured her. "The estate is secure with multiple layers of protection, both technological and supernatural. Focus on your training and let Cole handle the security concerns." Despite Catherine's reassurances, unease settled in Emily's stomach as she returned to her suite. The reality of her situation struck home with new clarity. Her existence threatened a power balance that had maintained peace among werewolves for generations. People were willing to fight, perhaps kill, to possess or protect her. After showering and changing for dinner, Emily decided to explore the manor further. The east wing opened onto a gallery lined with portraits. Generations of Ashford family members watched from gilt frames as she passed. She studied their faces, noting the resemblance that threaded through the generations, the same strong jawline and penetrating eyes that Cole possessed. One portrait in particular caught her attention. A man who could have been Cole's twin, dressed in the fashion of what appeared to be the early 1900s. The nameplate identified him as William Ashford Alpha King, 1872 to 1923. "My grandfather." Cole's voice came from behind her. Emily turned startled. Despite her enhanced senses, she hadn't heard him approach. He stood at a careful distance, hands clasped behind his back, his posture formal, yet somehow vulnerable. "The resemblance is remarkable," she said. "He could be your brother." Cole's lips curved slightly. "The Ashford genes run strong through the generations." Catherine mentioned longer lifespans, Emily said carefully, "but not how much longer." "How old are you really, Cole?" He studied her for a long moment, as if weighing how much truth to share. "I was born in 07, he said finally, "though officially my records show 1985. Emily's breath caught. "You're over 200 years old." 230 this past spring, Cole confirmed. "Young by some standards, ancient by others." The casual acknowledgement of his impossible age left Emily speechless. Cole had lived through the Civil War, both world wars, the entire technological revolution of the 20th century. The historical perspective he possessed was staggering. "Does it get easier?" Emily asked softly. "Living so long watching the world change around you." Something darkened in Cole's eyes. "Some aspects become easier. Others harder. The world changes, but people remain fundamentally the same." In loneliness he paused, then continued more formally. "The curse ensures that certain comforts remain out of reach." Cole Ashford's words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Emily saw the vulnerability in him that she hadn't noticed before. Despite his power, wealth, and centuries of experience, Cole was profoundly alone. The curse had kept him from the one connection that might have made his long existence bearable. "I've been researching," Emily said, changing the subject to spare him further discomfort. "The manuscripts in the library contain references to rituals between Alphas and Omegas bonding ceremonies that supposedly enhance the abilities of both." Cole's expression hardened immediately. "Those rituals belong to a different time when Omegas were common and understood their nature from birth. They're not applicable to your situation." "Why are you dismissing them so quickly?" Emily challenged. "Some specifically mentioned healing and transformation. If there's even a possibility they could affect the curse," Emily continued, "we have to try." "The risk is too great." Cole cut her off, his tone brooking no argument. "Those who attempted to circumvent the curse in the past suffered consequences far worse than the original affliction. I won't subject you to that danger." The protective declaration warmed Emily, even as it frustrated her. "Shouldn't that be my decision if I choose to take the risk?" Cole's expression softened slightly. "Your courage is admirable, but you barely understand your own nature, yet let alone the complexities of ancient wolf magic. Focus on your training with Nora. Master your abilities first, then we can discuss possibilities." Before Emily could argue further, a distant howl echoed across the estate grounds. Cole stiffened his head, snapping toward the sound. "What is it?" Emily asked, her alarm rising at his reaction. "Intruders," Cole said grimly. "Stay here. Security will come for you." He moved quickly toward the main entrance, leaving Emily alone in the gallery. Through the windows she saw activity on the grounds, shadowy figures moving with purpose toward the perimeter. A second howl, closer this time, sent a shiver down Emily's spine. Without conscious thought, her body responded to the sound, a surge of protective instinct flooding her system. Cole was out there, potentially in danger. The man who had offered her safety and truth when her world had turned upside down. Before she could analyze her reaction, Luke appeared at the end of the gallery. "Miss West," he called urgently. "We need to move you to a secure location." "What's happening?" Emily demanded as she hurried to join him. "Damian's wolves," Luke explained tersely, leading her toward the interior of the center. "Testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses. Standard intimidation tactics." "Is Cole in danger?" The question escaped her before she could censor it. Luke's expression softened briefly. "Cole can handle himself. He's been dealing with Damian's challenges for decades." He led her to a lower level of the manor, a modernized space that contained what appeared to be a command center. Monitors displayed security footage from around the estate. Several pack members worked at computers or communicated via headsets. On the largest screen, Emily saw Cole standing at the estate's northern boundary, jacket off. Opposite him stood a group of men, led by a striking figure with copper-red hair and a lean, predatory build. Even through the video feed, his menacing presence was palpable. "Damian Blackwood," Luke confirmed, noting Emily's attention. "Coming in person is unusual. He typically sends underlings for these provocations." Emily watched as Cole and Damian conversed, their body language tense. Though the security feed had no audio, she could see Damian's expression shift from arrogance to anger as Cole spoke. Damian gestured, emphatically pointing toward the manor house. Pointing toward her, Emily realized with a chill. Cole's response was impossible to miss, even without sound. His posture straightened, power radiating from him in almost visible waves. Even Damian took an involuntary step back before catching himself. "What just happened?" Emily asked. "Cole asserted his authority as Alpha King," Luke explained, something like pride in his voice. "It's a dominance display that only the most powerful alphas can project. Damian may be strong, but he's no match for Cole in a direct confrontation." After another tense exchange, Damian and his wolves retreated. Cole watched until they disappeared into the forest before turning back toward the manor. Even through the security feed, Emily thought she detected weariness in his movements. "Will they be back?" she asked. "Eventually," Luke acknowledged. "Damian doesn't surrender easily, but he won't risk open conflict with Cole unless he believes he can win." "And my presence changes the equation," Emily concluded. "If he could control an Omega, he might have the advantage he needs." Luke nodded grimly. "Which is why your training is crucial. The more you understand your own abilities, the less vulnerable you'll be to manipulation or control." Emily stared at the monitor where Cole was now walking back toward the manor, his powerful frame silhouetted against the gathering dusk. In just a few days, Emily's life had shifted from the quiet routine of academia to a whirlwind of supernatural conflict. The man on the screen, both human and wolf, cursed and powerful, had become the center of it all. She was only beginning to understand the magnitude of it. "I want to help," Emily said, suddenly turning to Luke. "Not just hide and be protected. I need to understand everything, my abilities, the politics between packs, the history of the curse. If I'm going to be part of this world, I want to be an asset, not a liability." Luke studied her, a look of respect in his expression. "That's exactly what Cole hoped you'd say. The guest suite library has been stocked with texts specifically chosen to educate you in pack history and politics. And Nora has prepared a training schedule that will help you develop your abilities systematically." "And the curse," Emily pressed. "Will anyone help me understand that too?" Luke's expression grew cautious. "The curse is personal to Cole. He guards that knowledge closely, partly because of the pain it causes him," he acknowledged, "but also because previous attempts to break it have had devastating consequences. Not just for the Alpha, but for those who tried to help them." The warning was clear, but it only strengthened Emily's resolve. "I'm not afraid of consequences, Luke. I've spent my life searching for where I belong. Now I know why nothing ever felt right. This world, these abilities, they're part of who I am. And if I can help Cole while finding my place, that's what I want to do." Luke's expression softened. "You truly are an Omega. The desire to heal, to help, it's fundamental to your nature." As they spoke, the door opened and Cole entered. His presence immediately filled the room. His gaze locked onto Emily, and for a brief moment, relief was visible in his expression before his usual control snapped back into place. "Damian won't attempt anything further tonight," Cole informed them. "But he's growing bolder. We need to accelerate both the security measures and Emily's training." I was just telling Miss West about the resources we've prepared for her education, Luke said. Cole nodded, maintaining his careful distance from Emily. Good. Knowledge is as important as physical training in your situation. I want to learn everything, Emily stated firmly, including about the curse. Cole's expression tightened. Luke, give us a moment. When they were alone, Cole approached, staying just short of the distance that seemed to cause him discomfort. The curse isn't academic material, Emily, he said, his voice quiet but heavy. It's a painful reality that has shaped my existence for centuries. I appreciate your interest, but some burdens aren't meant to be shared. What if sharing is exactly what's needed? Emily challenged gently. The manuscripts mentioned balance between alpha and omega power and healing strength and compassion. Ancient folklore, Cole dismissed, though something in his eyes suggested uncertainty. Is it, or is it history your world has forgotten? Emily countered, using his own words from earlier. You took a chance revealing your world to me. Why not take one more chance on the possibility that together we might achieve what hasn't been possible alone? Cole studied her conflict, evident in his expression. The Alpha King, accustomed to command and control, warred with the man who had lived centuries with pain as his constant companion. Hope, dangerous and fragile, flickered briefly in his eyes before caution reasserted itself. Your courage continues to impress me, he said finally. But I've seen too many suffer from hasty attempts to circumvent the curse. Master your Omega abilities first. Understand this world you've entered. Then perhaps we can discuss possibilities. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't an outright refusal either. Emily recognized the concession for what it was, a crack in the armor Cole had built over centuries of isolation. I'll hold you to that, she said with a small smile. As they stood there, the Alpha King and the newly awakened Omega, the air between them seemed charged with possibility. The mate bond Cole had mentioned pulled at them both, urging closer connection despite the pain it would cause him. Emily felt it like a physical tether binding her to this man she barely knew yet somehow recognized on a level beyond conscious thought. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, from Damian's ambitions, from the awakening of her own nature, from the curse that kept Cole isolated despite his power. But for the first time after learning of her Omega heritage, Emily felt not just acceptance, but purpose. She would master this new reality. She would find her place in this hidden world, and somehow she would find a way to ease the burden Cole had carried alone for far too long. The hunt had only just begun. Dawn broke over the Hudson Valley estate, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Emily stood at her suite's window, watching the forest awaken. 3 weeks had passed since she'd accepted Cole's protection, a period of intensive training with Nora, leaving her physically exhausted but mentally exhilarated. Emily's Omega abilities were emerging faster than anyone had expected. She could now control the partial shift at will, changing her eyes from their usual hazel to a striking gold. Her senses had sharpened to the point where she could identify individual pack members by scent alone. Most significantly, she had begun to manifest the calming influence unique to Omegas, able to soothe agitated wolves with nothing more than her presence. Nora had been both demanding and encouraging, pushing Emily's limits while recognizing her exceptional progress. You're a natural, she'd said just yesterday. Most wolves take months to achieve what you've managed in just weeks. Despite this progress, Damian's threat still loomed. His wolves regularly tested the estate's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Cole had doubled the security, restricting Emily's movements to the manor and its immediate grounds. The limitation irritated her, but she understood its necessity. What troubled her more was the growing complexity of her connection with Cole. Though he remained unfailingly polite, he kept a careful distance, joining her for meals, but always seated at the opposite end of the long dining table, participating in discussions about her training, but never directly involving himself. The few times they'd accidentally gotten too close, she'd seen pain flash across his face before he quickly retreated. Yet despite this physical separation, their bond had only grown stronger. Sometimes she'd enter a room and sense his presence, his distinctive scent of cedar and night air lingering in the space, as if he had just been there. Occasionally during training, she'd glance up to find him watching from a window or doorway, his expression tense before he disappeared. That morning, Emily had woken with an unfamiliar restlessness beneath her skin. Nora had warned her that this sensation was a sign her wolf nature was growing stronger, seeking to express itself. Soon, Nora had explained, she would need to attempt a full transformation. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Luke stood in the hallway, his expression unusually tense. Cole would like to see you in his study, he said without preamble. Is something wrong? Emily asked, immediately alert. Damian is making his move, Luke replied grimly. We've detected unusual activity among his allies. Several packs that typically stay neutral have gathered at his territory. Emily followed Luke through the manor to Cole's study, a wood-paneled room filled with books and artifacts from his long life. Maps covered the large desk, and several pack members were gathered around reviewing them when she entered. Among them was Seth, a young wolf who had recently joined the security team. He kept his eyes down as she passed something Emily found curious, but dismissed as shyness. Cole looked up from the discussion, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Emily," he greeted her. "Thank you for coming." With a motion of his hand, he dismissed the others. Seth lingered a moment longer than necessary, his gaze darting between Cole and Emily, before Luke ushered him out. Alone now, Cole moved to stand before the fireplace, keeping his customary distance. "Luke says Damian is gathering allies," Emily said, studying him carefully. Cole nodded, his expression grave. "Intelligence suggests he's planning something significant, something beyond his usual provocations." "Because of me?" Emily asked, not as a question but as a statement. "Your presence has accelerated his timeline," Cole acknowledged. "But Damian has coveted my position for decades. You're merely the catalyst, not the cause." "What will he do?" Emily asked, her voice tense with worry. "Most likely he'll attempt to infiltrate the estate," Cole said. "His spies are reporting on your training, your emerging abilities. The stronger you become, the more desperate he grows to possess you before your powers fully manifest." The clinical way Cole assessed her situation should have frightened Emily, but instead she felt a surge of determination. "Then we should prepare. Nora says I'm progressing faster than expected. Maybe it's time to attempt the full transformation." Something flickered in Cole's eyes, a motion too quick for her to fully identify. "Nora believes you're ready," he said. "She says my wolf is very close to the surface. The restlessness of the dreams, they're all signs that you're approaching the threshold." Cole was silent for a long moment, studying her with an intensity that seemed to look beyond her surface to the wolf within. "A first transformation is dangerous, even under ideal circumstances," he said, his voice low. "With Damian's threat looming." "All the more reason to do it now," Emily argued. "If I can access my full abilities, I won't be just a liability to protect. I could help defend the pack." Pride flickered across Cole's features before concern reasserted itself. "Your dedication to the pack is admirable but unnecessary. Protecting you is our responsibility, not the other way around." "I'm not looking for your permission, Cole," Emily said softly, but with unmistakable resolve. "I'm informing you of my decision. Catherine has agreed to guide me through the process tonight." For a brief moment, Cole Ashford's alpha authority radiated from him, a reflexive response to her challenge. But remarkably, it subsided. In its place, Emily saw respect, and maybe something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. "Very well," he conceded. "The ceremony will take place in the sacred grove beyond the eastern meadow. It's traditionally used for first transformations, protected by ancient magic that strengthens the connection between human and wolf." Emily hadn't expected him to agree so easily. "You're not going to argue?" she asked, a hint of a smile touching Cole's lips. "Would it make a difference if I did?" he asked. "Probably not," Emily admitted. "Then I'll save my breath." His expression grew serious again. "But I'll ask one thing of you. Allow me to be present for the transformation." "Not participating," he added quickly. "That would be Catherine's role. But watching over you." The request surprised her. "Wouldn't it be painful for you to be that close to me during such an intense experience?" "Yes," Cole said simply, his voice low. "But some pains are worth enduring." The admission hung between them, heavy with unspoken meanings neither of them was ready to explore. Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest, a response to his willingness to suffer for her safety. "Then yes," she said softly. "I'd like you to be there." Their conversation was interrupted by Luke's return, his expression grim. "We've just received word from our scouts," he said, urgency in his tone. "Damian's forces are mobilizing. They'll be within striking distance of the estate by nightfall." Cole's posture shifted immediately. Alpha authority radiated from him. "Implement security protocol, Omega," he commanded. "Full perimeter coverage. All pack members on alert." "Already in progress," Luke confirmed. Cole turned back to Emily, his expression grave. "The timing is concerning. Damian may know about the planned transformation." "How could he?" Emily asked. "We've suspected a leak within the pack for some time," Luke explained. "Information has reached Damian too quickly for it to be a coincidence." Emily recalled Seth's strange behavior moments earlier but said nothing. Accusations without evidence could damage pack unity at a critical time. Cole said, his expression hardening. The transformation must proceed regardless. If Damian is planning to strike, it's better you have access to your full abilities. I'll inform Catherine to prepare, Luke said, exiting swiftly. Left alone again, Emily studied Cole's face, noting the tension around his eyes, the rigid set of his shoulders. You're worried, she observed. Concerned, he corrected. Damian is unpredictable, especially when desperate. And a first transformation leaves a wolf vulnerable. But you'll be there, Emily said, surprised by the certainty in her voice. Something softened in Cole's expression. Yes, I will be there. The day passed in a flurry of preparation. Nora worked with Emily on the meditation techniques designed to ease the transition between human and wolf forms. Luke oversaw security arrangements, positioning pack members strategically throughout the estate grounds. Cole coordinated with allied passes, calling in reinforcements to counter Damian's growing forces. As twilight approached, Nora led Emily to the sacred grove, a circle of ancient oak trees deep within the estate forest. Cole followed at a distance, his presence a reassuring constant despite the space between them. The grove felt different from the surrounding forest, charged with an energy Emily could feel against her skin. Moss-covered stones formed a natural circle at its center. A small fire burned there, casting dancing shadows among the trees. This place has witnessed thousands of first transformations, Nora explained, her voice hushed with respect. The energy of all those transitions lingers here, making the barrier between human and wolf thinner, easier to cross. Cole remained at the edge of the grove, positioning himself against one of the massive oaks. Even at that distance, Emily could sense his focus on her, his concern, and something deeper, something primal that called to her on a visceral level. The process is straightforward but intense. Nora continued, drawing Emily's attention back. You'll remove your clothing, which would restrict the transformation. Then kneel by the fire and focus on your breath. I'll guide you through the rest. Emily nodded, suddenly nervous despite weeks of preparation. She stepped behind a large oak to undress, wrapping herself in the blanket Nora had brought. The October night air was cool against her skin as she returned to the fire, kneeling on the soft earth beside it. Cole, Nora called softly. Take your position. Cole moved deeper into the grove, still maintaining distance, but now within Emily's line of sight. Their eyes met across the flames, and Emily felt the mate bond between them pulse with renewed strength. Now, Nora instructed, kneeling opposite Emily. Close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Feel the energy of this place, the ancient magic that flows through the earth beneath you. Emily obeyed, allowing her awareness to expand beyond her physical form. The grove seemed to come alive with her, the energy Nora had mentioned it becoming tangible, flowing up through Emily's body from the earth beneath her. Your wolf has always been part of you, Nora's voice echoed both from within and outside Emily at once. Not a separate entity, but your truest self, free from human constraints. Feel her stir within you, eager to run beneath the moon. The restlessness that had consumed Emily all day intensified, becoming a burning pressure beneath her skin. Her heart hammered, her breath quick and shallow, as the sensation overwhelmed her. Don't fight it, Nora urged. Surrender to the transformation. Let your wolf rise. Pain shot through Emily's body, a searing burn that traveled along her bones. She gasped, eyes snapping open to find Nora watching her, her gaze intense with focus. Beyond the fire, Cole had taken a half step forward, his face a mix of concern and the need to maintain distance. It hurts, Emily gasped. The first time always does, Nora confirmed, her tone calm but knowing. But the pain will pass. Focus on your wolf. Call to her. Emily closed her eyes once more, reaching inward to the presence she'd felt since childhood, but never fully understood. My wolf, she thought, my true self. Something answered. Wild joy surged within her, overwhelming the pain. Emily felt her body shift, bones cracking, muscles stretching, reforming. The sensation was both excruciating and exhilarating, terrifying, yet oddly right. Then everything stopped. The transformation stalled midway, leaving Emily trapped between two forms, neither fully human nor fully wolf. Pain sliced through her, sharper than before. Something's wrong. Nora's voice came distant yet urgent. She's stuck in the transition. Through the fog of pain, Emily heard rapid footsteps approaching. Cole knelt before her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Emily, he said urgently, his voice low but commanding. Look at me. She forced her eyes open, finding his face mere inches from hers. The proximity should have triggered his curse, but instead, His expression was full of only concern. No sign of the pain her presence usually caused him. "Your wolf is afraid," Cole said, his voice gentle but firm. "She senses danger and hesitates to emerge fully. You must reassure her," he continued, his eyes locking with hers. "Show her that she's protected." "How?" Emily managed her voice tight with pain. "Trust," Cole said simply. "Trust your wolf. Trust your pack. Trust me." Their eyes locked, and in that moment something passed between them. A silent communication, deeper than words. Emily felt the mate bond flare stronger than ever before. In that instant, she understood what Cole was risking by being so close to her, the pain he was enduring to help her through this transition. With that realization, surrender came. Emily stopped fighting the transformation and embraced it. She welcomed it. The change resumed rushing through her in a wave of sensation that was no longer pain, but freedom. Where Emily had knelt now stood a wolf. Her fur burnished gold, her eyes gleaming with wonder and newfound intelligence. She shook herself, adjusting to her new form, to the new senses, to this new way of experiencing the world. Nora had stepped back, giving her space. Cole remained where he had been, his eyes filled with awe and pride. "Beautiful," he whispered. Emily took a tentative step forward, then another, growing more confident with each movement. The wolf's body felt natural, as though she had always known how to move on 4 legs instead of 2. Senses and sounds assaulted her, richer and more complex than anything her human form had ever perceived. She approached Cole slowly, instinctively understanding that her wolf form might amplify the effects of his curse. To her surprise, he didn't retreat. Instead, he remained where he was, making no move to distance himself. When she was close enough to touch, she paused, waiting. Cole slowly extended his hand, giving her the choice to either complete the contact or withdraw. Emily pressed her muzzle against his palm, and a jolt passed between them, not of pain, but of connection. The mate bond surged stronger than it ever had been before. "Impossible," Nora breathed from somewhere behind them. Cole's eyes widened in shock as his hand trembled against Emily's fur. "It doesn't hurt," he said, wonder clear in his voice. "For the first time in 2 centuries, your touch brings no pain." And before they could explore this miracle further, howls erupted from the forest beyond the grove, urgent warning calls from the pack guards. Cole was on his feet in an instant, the vulnerable moment forgotten as his alpha instincts took over. "Damian," he snarled. "Nora, get her back to the manor." "Too late," Nora replied tensely, her own partial shift beginning as her eyes changed to amber. "They're already surrounding the grove." As if summoned by some unspoken command, figures emerged from the trees. A dozen wolves in human form, led by a tall man with copper-red hair and cold green eyes. Damian Blackwood moved with predatory grace, stepping into the sacred space, his gaze fixed on Emily. "What a touching scene," he purred, his voice smooth yet chilling. "The cursed Alpha King and his golden Omega, how poetic." A Cole Ashford positioned himself between Damian and Emily, power radiating from him in almost visible waves. "You dare violate the sanctity of a first transformation," he growled. "Damian, even you should respect the ancient traditions." Damian's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Traditions are for the weak, Cole. The strong take what they want." His gaze shifted to Emily. "And I want her." A low growl rumbled from deep in Emily's chest. In wolf form, her instincts were sharper, less filtered by human logic. She recognized Damian as a threat to her pack, her home, her mate. "She seems to disagree," Cole observed coldly. "Leave now, Damian, before this becomes something you can't walk away from." Damian laughed, the sound grating against Emily's sensitive ears. "You've grown soft, Cole. Time was you would have torn my throat out for such a transgression. But centuries of pain have weakened you, made you hesitant to act. Or perhaps they've taught me the value of restraint," Cole countered, his voice steady. "Something you've never learned." Damian's expression hardened. "Enough talk," he spat. "My sources tell me the Omega hasn't completed her first transformation cycle. She's vulnerable, unable to access her full abilities." He gestured to his followers. "Take her. Kill the others," he added, and all hell broke loose. Damian's wolves surged forward. Nora shifted fully into wolf form, sleek and deadly, moving with the speed of a seasoned fighter. Cole's roar, powerful enough to stop Damian's forces, momentarily filled the grove. Emily reacted on instinct, her new wolf form moving with surprising agility. She dodged the first attacker, snapping at another who came too close. But she was outnumbered, her lack of experience in wolf form a dangerous disadvantage. A large gray wolf lunged at her, teeth bared. Before it could reach her, A massive black shape intercepted the attack, throwing the assailant aside with terrifying force. Cole, now fully transformed into an enormous black wolf with ice-blue eyes, stood protectively over her, radiating deadly intent. The battle became a chaotic mess. Snarls, growls, and yelps filled the sacred grove as wolves clashed in a deadly frenzy. Nora took down 2 attackers in swift succession, her experience evident in every calculated movement. But Damian had brought superior numbers, and slowly they were being surrounded. Damian, still in human form, stood directing his forces with calculated precision. "Don't kill the Omega," he ordered. "Subdue her. The others are expendable." Emily's rage burned at his casual dismissal of Mason and Nora's lives. Something stirred inside her, an aspect of her Omega nature she hadn't yet accessed. Without understanding how, she reached for it, drawing it forward through sheer instinct. A wave of energy pulsed outward from her, invisible but palpable. Every wolf in the grove felt it, their movement suspended as the energy washed over them. Damian's wolves whined in confusion, their aggressive drive suddenly dampened by Emily's influence. "What is this?" Damian demanded, fury twisting his features as his wolves hesitated, some even backing away. "Attack, you fools!" But Emily's power continued to build, a golden light now emanating from her fur as she focused her will on calming the raging battle. One by one, Damian's wolves lowered their heads instinctively, submitting to an authority they couldn't understand but couldn't resist. Cole seized the advantage, driving forward with renewed vigor. Together they forced Damian's remaining loyal wolves to retreat to the edge of the grove. Damian's expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief to sheer rage as his carefully planned attack crumbled before his eyes. "This isn't possible," he snarled. "No newly turned Omega has this level of control." But there, Emily stood, glowing golden in the firelight, the proof of her power undeniable. Emily held her focus, her calming energy flowing from her in steady waves, and she felt Cole's strength through their bond drawing on it to amplify her own. Realizing his forces were compromised, Damian made a desperate decision. He shifted into wolf form, a copper-red beast with emerald eyes, and charged directly at Cole. Alpha against alpha, an open challenge for dominance. The 2 massive wolves collided with bone-jarring force teeth and claws seeking any vulnerable spot. Cole's greater size gave him the advantage, but Damian's desperate fury made him a fierce adversary. They rolled across the grove, snarling and slashing, neither giving an inch. Emily watched in horror as Damian's teeth sank into Cole's shoulder, drawing blood. The sight of Cole injured triggered something new within her, a protective rage that overwhelmed even her calming influence. With a primal snarl that didn't sound like the academic she had once been, she leapt into the fray. Victor didn't even see her coming. Focused entirely on Cole, he didn't notice the golden blur until Emily's teeth sank into his hind leg. He yelped, surprise flashing across his face as his grip on Cole loosened. That was all the opening Cole needed. He surged forward, slamming Victor to the ground, his teeth at the other alpha's throat. For a tense moment, the grove fell silent. Every wolf friend and foe alike watched the battle between the alphas. Cole had only to tighten his jaw to end Victor's life. It was his right, both by pack law and by victory. But instead of delivering the killing blow, Cole growled low, a warning rather than execution, and slowly backed away, keeping his eyes locked on Victor. He asserted his dominance without taking life. Victor lay where he had fallen, blood matting his copper fur. Defeat was clear in every line of his body. Cole shifted back to human form. His naked body, powerful in the firelight, was unmarked except for the bleeding wound on his shoulder. "It's over, Victor," he said, his voice carrying the authority that no wolf present could ignore. "You violated sacred traditions, attacked an alpha king on his own territory, and threatened his mate during her first transformation. By rights, your life is forfeit." Victor shifted back to human form, his face a mix of hatred and fear. "Then finish it, Cole. Or have you grown too weak to do what's necessary?" Victor sneered. "Strength isn't measured by the lives you take, but by those you spare," Cole replied, echoing the wisdom passed down through generations of Alpha Kings. "Your life is yours to keep, but your position as Alpha is forfeit. Return to your territory, gather your things. By dawn tomorrow you will leave the Eastern Territories forever." Shocked murmurs spread through the assembled wolves. Banishment was a punishment rarely invoked, considered by many to be worse than death itself. "You can't do this," Victor protested. "My family has led the Blackwood pack for generations. And now that leadership ends," Cole said coldly, "your second in command, Seth Riley, will assume the position of Alpha. He's always shown the judgment you lack." Victor lunged suddenly, a desperate final attack aimed at Cole's throat. Before he could make contact, Emily was there, her golden wolf form blocking his path. The power that flowed from her this time wasn't calming, it was commanding, a pure expression of Omega authority that forced Victor to his knees. Enough, she growled, the wolf's voice carrying with it. Her human determination echoed through the grove. Victor stared at her, a mix of hatred and disbelief, warring in his eyes. Then with a final snarl of defiance, he shifted back into wolf form and fled into the forest, several of his most loyal followers racing after him. The remaining enemy wolves dropped to the ground, prostrating themselves, before Cole submitting to his authority and begging for mercy. Nora, now back in human form and wrapped in a discarded blanket, supervised their restraint as pack members arrived from the manor, alerted by the sounds of the battle. Emily remained in wolf form, the energy of the fight still pulsing through her. She felt Cole's presence before he knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her fur. "You need to shift back," he said softly. "The first transformation is taxing enough without the added strain of battle." Emily whimpered softly, unsure how to reverse the process that had felt so natural when shifting forward. "Focus on your human self," Cole guided. "Picture your body, your hands, your face. The wolf will recede when you call your human form forward." Following his instructions, Emily concentrated on her human identity. The transition back was smoother than the initial transformation, leaving her kneeling naked on the forest floor, exhausted, but exhilarated. Cole draped his shirt around her shoulders, careful even now to minimize direct contact. "What happened?" she asked, her voice rough from the transformation. "With the curse, I mean. When I was in wolf form, my touch didn't cause you pain." Cole shook his head, wonder in his eyes. "I don't know. Nothing like this has occurred in the recorded history of the curse. Could it be because I'm an Omega? Or something about the transformation process itself?" "Perhaps," Cole said thoughtfully. "The curse specifically affects human connections, emotions like love and pleasure. The wolf operates on different instincts, simpler in some ways." Before they could explore the implications further, Luke appeared at the edge of the grove, his expression grave despite their victory. "Mason," he called, urgency in his tone. "We have a problem. Victor escaped the perimeter and he's taken something from the manor." "What?" Cole demanded, instantly alert. "The Blackwood grimoire," Luke replied grimly. "The book containing the original curse." Cole's expression darkened. "It was locked in the vault." "We have a traitor," Nora interjected, joining them. "Timothy. He's missing. Security logs show his access code was used an hour ago." "Why would Victor want the book?" Emily asked, pulling Cole's shirt tighter around her. "Knowledge is power," Cole said grimly, his gaze darkening. "The book doesn't just contain the curse. It holds other ancient magic that could wreak havoc in the wrong hands." His words hung heavy with the unspoken danger. "He wouldn't dare use blood magic," Nora protested. "Even Victor knows the consequences." "A desperate wolf is unpredictable," Cole replied, his voice sharp, "and we've just taken everything from him. His pride, his position, his territory." "Not everything," Luke corrected. "He still has his life. Thanks to your mercy." Cole's eyes met Emily's across the room. "A decision I may come to regret." Back at the manor, Emily showered and changed her body, aching from the transformation and the ensuing fight. The events in the grove replayed in her mind. But it was the moment when her touch in wolf form hadn't caused Cole pain that lingered. It suggested there was a crack in the curse, maybe even a way to break it. When she stepped out of her suite, Cole was waiting for her, standing in the corner, his shoulder freshly bandaged under his shirt. His tense posture made Emily's heart ache. "Are you all right?" she asked. "The wound is minor." Cole dismissed, "But your well-being concerns me more. The first transformation is exhausting under ideal circumstances. Adding a fight to it—" His voice trailed off, and Emily could sense the weight of his worry. "I'm tired, but fine," she assured him. "The shift back is usually easier," Cole said, a hint of pride warming his gaze. "You handled yourself remarkably well. Most would have been overwhelmed by the sensations alone, let alone combat." "What happens now?" Emily asked. "With Victor gone—" "Victor isn't gone yet," Cole corrected grimly. "And with the grimoire in his hands, he's more dangerous than before. We've increased security and alerted all allied packs to be on alert." He hesitated, something internal warring inside him, before continuing. "There's something you should see. Something that might help you understand what we're up against." Curious, Emily followed him through the manor to a part she hadn't yet explored. They stopped in front of a heavy oak door. When it opened, a circular staircase spiraled downward. As they descended, torches, lit up automatically, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. The manor's foundations date back to the 1700s, Cole explained, as they reached the bottom. This chamber was built by my grandfather as a place to store items too dangerous or valuable to be kept anywhere else. The chamber they entered was circular, its walls lined with glass cases containing ancient powerful artifacts. Cole led her to the center where an empty pedestal stood, bathed in light from somewhere above. The Blackwood grimoire was kept here, he said, pointing to the pedestal. It contains not only the curse that haunts my bloodline, but many other spells and rituals from a time when magic flowed more freely. Who created it? Emily asked, captivated, despite the seriousness of the situation. Eliza Blackwood. Cole answered, his voice steady, an omega from a time when such designations were more common. She was betrayed by my ancestor Alexander Ashford, who chose political alliances over their mate bond. She cursed him out of vengeance, Emily murmured, piecing the story together. Cole nodded. A betrayed omega's pain is a powerful catalyst for magic. Eliza made sure that no Ashford Alpha would ever know love without suffering pleasure, without torment. The curse has passed from alpha to alpha for 12 generations. And no one's ever broken it? Emily asked, though she already suspected the answer. Many have tried. Cole said, his voice heavy with history. My father believed he could break it with a ritual of blood and moonlight. The attempt killed him, and my mother was left in agony for years. Emily watched his face, the toll of centuries of suffering etched into his features. Yet something happened tonight, she said, her voice soft. In wolf form, my touch didn't cause you pain. Yes, Cole acknowledged, wonder in his voice. A phenomenon I can't explain. Unless... He trailed off, his thoughts clearly racing. What Emily prompted. The curse targets human emotion, Cole said slowly. Connection. Love. Pleasure. The wolf operates on simpler instincts. Protection territory. Packmate, Emily finished for him softly. Cole's gaze met hers, something vulnerable flickering beneath his usual calm exterior. Yes. And mate. The word hung in the air, charged with implications neither of them had dared to voice before. If the wolf form could circumvent the curse, there might be a way forward that previous generations had overlooked. Before they could explore the idea further, the sound of Luke's voice cut through their thoughts. Mason. We have a situation. Victor's been spotted at the old Blackwood property. Cole's expression darkened instantly. The site of the original curse, he muttered. He wouldn't. That wouldn't what Emily asked, alarm creeping into her voice. Attempt to amplify the curse, Cole replied grimly. The grimoire contains rituals that could extend the curse's effects beyond my bloodline, possibly affecting all alphas who oppose him. Can he do that? Emily asked, a chill running down her spine. With the right ingredients and the power of the original curse site, it's possible, Cole confirmed. We need to stop him. They hurried upstairs where Jack and Catherine were already waiting with several senior pack members. Maps were spread out across the table with one area circled in red. The Blackwood property is about 20 miles north. Jack explained, his tone steady. It's been abandoned for centuries, but it's still technically part of the Grey territory because of its historical significance. In terms of magical potency, Catherine added, her voice taking on a quiet reverence. The land itself remembers the events that occurred there. It's saturated with the energy of the original curse. We move immediately, Mason decided, without hesitation. Full combat team prepared for both conventional and supernatural threats. What about Emily? Catherine asked, her eyes flicking over to Olivia. Victor will expect us to bring her. He may be counting on it. All eyes turned to Emily, who straightened under their scrutiny. I'm going, she said firmly. My abilities helped turn the tide once. They might again. Mason studied her with a conflicted expression, his alpha instincts demanding he keep his omega safe. But he had witnessed her strength firsthand, her courage and determination. Very well, he conceded, finally, his voice low. But you stay with Catherine at all times. Your safety remains our priority. As the pack prepared for departure, Emily found herself alone with Mason for a brief moment. There's something you're not telling me, she said, her eyes narrowing as she recognized the tension in his posture. Something about Victor's plan that concerns you specifically. Mason hesitated, then nodded. The grimoire contains a ritual that could transfer the curse from my bloodline to another. Understanding dawned on Emily. Victor thinks you'll surrender to save your pack. To save me. Cole met her gaze, his voice steady but a flicker of something darker in his eyes. He knows the responsibility of an alpha king to his people. He suspects that the mate bond between us would make you a particularly effective leverage. You can't sacrifice yourself, Emily said urgently, her voice filled with resolve. No matter what happens. Mason's expression softened slightly. 2 weeks ago I would have agreed with you. My duty to the pack came before all personal considerations. He paused, something vulnerable flickering in his gaze. But now I find my priorities shifting in ways I hadn't anticipated. The weight of his admission hung heavily between them. Before Emily could respond, Jack appeared, breaking the moment. The team's ready, he said. The moment passed, but Emily carried Mason's words with her, as they prepared for what might be their greatest challenge yet. The Blackwood property stood in stark contrast to the Gray estate. Where Mason's home exuded power and control, tempered by elegance, this place radiated only darkness. A decaying manor house loomed, its windows, boarded up stone walls crumbling against the night sky. The grounds had been overtaken by wild growth, creating a tangled barrier that seemed to have been made to keep something in, or keep people out. Mason led the way, his posture alert as they approached through the dense forest surrounding the property. Jack and Catherine flanked Emily, while a dozen of Mason's most trusted wolves formed a protective perimeter around them. The house itself isn't our destination, Mason explained quietly, his voice low. The ritual site is behind it in a clearing where the original confrontation between Alexander Ashford and Eliza Blackwood took place. As they drew closer, the air seemed to thicken with an ancient power, making Emily's skin prickle. It reminded her of the sacred grove, but this energy felt darker, tainted by centuries of pain and resentment. I feel it, she whispered. The curse. It's everywhere here. Mason nodded grimly. The land remembers. Pain this deep leaves an imprint. Time can't erase. They circled the manor house, keeping to the shadows. As they emerged behind the structure, Emily saw it, a perfect circle of barren earth where nothing grew, not even weeds. At the center stood a stone altar, weathered and ancient, covered in symbols similar to those she'd seen in the Blackwood grimoire. And there was Victor standing before the altar with the stolen book open in his hands. Seth knelt beside him, head bowed in submission. Candles burned at specific points around the circle, their flames unnaturally still, despite the night breeze. He's already begun, Catherine murmured, her voice tight with concern. Mason signaled for the pack to spread out, surrounding the clearing from a distance. We need to disrupt the ritual before it goes any further. Catherine, take 4 wolves and circle behind, Mason instructed. Jack, you and the others take the east flank. Emily stays with me. As the pack moved into position, Victor glanced up from the grimoire. A smile spread across his face, sinister and confident. Welcome, Mason, he called, his voice carrying easily across the clearing. I've been expecting you. Mason stepped forward, Emily at his side. This ends now. Victor. Mason's voice was a low growl. Return the grimoire and surrender. Victor's laugh echoed through the night, his voice grating against Emily's heightened senses. Always the diplomat, even when staring down destruction. But tonight, it wasn't about negotiations. It was about transformation. Victor gestured towards Seth. Your little traitor has been very helpful, not just in acquiring the grimoire, but in providing the necessary components for the ritual. Seth lifted his head, his expression shifting from one of submission to sheer terror as Victor's hand settled on his shoulder. Willing or unwilling, blood is blood, Victor said, drawing out a ceremonial dagger that gleamed ominously in the candlelight. Stop! Mason commanded, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. His authority as an alpha radiated power, making every wolf present wince, except Victor, who seemed unfazed by its effect. Too late, Victor said, his grin widening. With a swift motion, he slashed the blade across Seth's throat. Blood poured from the wound, sinking into the stone altar, as if the stone itself thirsted for it. The atmosphere shifted instantly, growing thick and crackling with electricity. The flames of the candles shot higher, turning into pillars of fire that lit up the clearing with an eerie glow. The ground trembled beneath them. Blood calls to blood, Victor intoned. Reading from the grimoire, his voice laced with power. Pain seeks pain. The curse born of betrayal now seeks a new purpose. Mason surged forward, but an invisible barrier stopped him just before the circle. He slammed his fist against it, the force of the impact sending ripples through the air like a stone thrown into still water. You can't break through, Victor taunted, his voice dripping with triumph. Not until the ritual is complete. But I'm willing to make an exchange. He turned his gaze to Emily. The Omega for your pack's freedom from the curse. A simple trade. Don't listen to him. Emily said urgently, her voice sharp. He's lying. Am I? Victor challenged, eyes gleaming. The grimoire is very clear. The curse can be transferred, but only if the current bearer willingly relinquishes it. Offer yourself. Mason and your bloodline will be free. Your pack will no longer suffer for your ancestors' betrayal. Mason's expression didn't change, but Emily could feel the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. 200 years of pain. The weight of a curse that had kept him isolated, disconnected from everything, from everyone. All of that could end with one sacrifice. And if I refuse, Mason asked, his voice unwavering. Victor's grin widened. Then I complete a different ritual, one that will amplify the curse, extend it beyond your bloodline. It will affect every alpha who refuses to acknowledge me as the Alpha King. Imagine it, Mason, Victor taunted. Every pack leader in the Eastern Territories suffering the way you have. How long before they overthrow you? Blaming you for their torment, Emily could feel the weight of his words. The temptation not just to free himself, but to protect his pack from further suffering. She watched as Mason took a step forward, her heart pounding. Mason, no, she cried out, grabbing his arm. The contact sent a jolt of pain through him, but he didn't pull away. This isn't the answer, she said, her voice steady, but filled with urgency. One life for many. It's a price any alpha would pay, he said softly. Emily's mind raced, desperately searching for a solution. And then it clicked. The moment in the grove when her touch had caused him no pain. A weakness in the curse. There's another way, she said urgently. The curse doesn't affect wolves, only humans. In our wolf forms, she continued, feeling the sudden surge of clarity. We found a loophole. What if that's the key? Not transferring the curse, but transforming it. Mason's eyes locked onto hers, hope battling centuries of resignation in his gaze. It's never been attempted. Because no alpha has had an omega mate since the curse was placed, Emily reasoned. We're the first. The grimoire said that alpha and omega in balance can heal what nothing else can. Victor's expression hardened at their exchange. Enough delay, he snarled. Choose now, Gray. Surrender to the ritual, or watch your packs suffer. Emily turned to Mason, determination in her eyes. Trust me, she said softly, repeating his words from earlier. Something shifted in Mason's expression. The weight of resignation was replaced by resolve. He nodded once, then addressed Victor. I accept your terms, he called. I'll enter the circle. But I bring my omega with me. Victor hesitated, suspicion flickering in his eyes, mingling with his triumph. The ritual requires only you. The omega is my mate, Mason said with quiet authority. Where I go, she goes. Those are my conditions. After a moment of silent calculation, Victor nodded reluctantly. Very well. Enter. The barrier parted, allowing Mason and Emily to step into the circle. As they approached the altar, Emily could feel the energy of the curse swirling around them, a dark presence trying to maintain its grip on Mason's bloodline. Now Victor's voice rose, satisfaction dripping from his words as he raised the bloody dagger. The true ritual began. But before Victor could even utter another command, Olivia was already in motion. With swift precision, she called upon her wolf, summoning it forward. The shift was smoother this time. Her body flowed seamlessly from human to wolf, a transformation that felt more natural than ever. Beside her, Mason mirrored the motion, his enormous black wolf form appearing in a blur of shadow and muscle. What is this? Victor demanded, his voice tight with growing fear as he stepped back from the two wolves. Stop, this isn't the ritual, he commanded, but Olivia and Mason were beyond the reach of human words now. Their wolves, instinctively in sync, circled the altar where the curse had been born centuries ago. As they moved, golden light radiated from Olivia's fur, mingling with the deep electric blue that enveloped Mason. Victor tried to intervene, but it was too late. Jack and Nora saw the opening, and with coordinated precision, they broke through the weakening barrier, bringing the rest of the pack with them. They captured Victor, forcing him to watch as his ritual shifted into something entirely unexpected. Olivia and Mason completed their circle around the altar, then turned to face each other across the blood-soaked stone. Their eyes locked, her golden gaze meeting his icy blue, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them, stronger than any words could convey. Together, they placed their paws on the altar. Their energies collided, alpha and omega, in perfect harmony. A shockwave of power surged outward from them, rippling through the clearing with such force that every wolf present was knocked to their knees. The candles flickered and died, plunging the area into darkness, save for the glow emanating from the two wolves. In that brief moment of shadow and light, Olivia felt it, the curse unwinding its malevolent energy, dissolving under the weight of their combined will. Not destroyed, ancient magic could never truly be erased, but reshaped, transformed into something new. When the light faded, Mason and Olivia stood there, human once again, naked, but unashamed. Mason's eyes widened in awe as he reached out to gently brush his fingers along Olivia's cheek, his voice thick with emotion. No pain, he whispered, his voice strained. For the first time in 2 centuries, I feel only pleasure. Olivia finished for him, leaning into his touch, feeling the truth of it course through them both. As it was always meant to be, the curse had been transformed, its energy now a binding force between them. Strength and healing power and compassion, uniting them rather than isolating them. Victor lay nearby, kneeling in disbelief, restrained by Jack and Nora. His face twisted with confusion and rage. Impossible, he muttered. The curse was absolute. Mason's gaze never wavered from Olivia's, his voice calm but resolute. Nothing is absolute, he said softly. Not even curses that have lasted centuries. There's always balance to be found if you're willing to seek it. With the curse broken, and Victor captured the pack, returned to the Grey Estate. In the days that followed, Victor was officially banished from the Eastern Territories, escorted to the western boundary with a clear warning, never to return on pain of death. The Blackwood grimoire was safely restored to its place in the vault, though its most dangerous secret had now been neutralized. Mason and Olivia grew closer, no longer held apart by the barrier of pain that had defined their lives for so long. Their bond deepened with each passing day, the connection between Alpha and Omega flourishing without the suffocating weight of suffering. One morning, 6 months after that fateful night at the Blackwood property, Olivia woke in Mason's arms. A realization that had been quietly growing within her suddenly bloomed. She looked at him, her heart racing, and placed his hand gently on her abdomen. "I have news," she said softly, her voice filled with both excitement and disbelief. His eyes widened as he sensed what she was about to say. "Our child," he whispered, his voice trembling with awe and joy. "The first of our line, born without the curse." Tears of happiness welled up in Olivia's eyes as she nodded. "The first Grey born without the curse," she confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. As Mason held her close, they both turned to look out the window at the dawn breaking over their territory. The world outside was changing, evolving just as it always had. But now, for the first time, they would face that change together. Alpha and Omega in perfect balance, creating a new future for themselves and for their pack. The hunt had ended. The healing had begun.